I am Danielle, 22 years old, and I just graduated with a biochemistry degree from Northwestern. My parents never approved of my choices, but they threw me this extravagant graduation party anyway. Strange, considering they called me a worthless leech just last week. As I watched the bubbles rise in the expensive champagne, I caught my father slipping a white powder into my glass. When he thought no one was looking, my heart stopped. My own father was trying to poison me. If you are watching this video, tell me where you are from in the comments below. Hit that like and subscribe button as I share how I survived my parents' betrayal and found strength I never knew I had to understand why my parents would want to harm me. You need to know about our family. The Harrises were not your typical loving household. My father, Joseph Harris, built Harris Pharmaceuticals from a small research lab into a powerhouse worth billions. His reputation for ruthless business tactics was legendary in the industry. Competitors would mysteriously lose funding or face unexpected regulatory hurdles, but publicly, he maintained the image of a philanthropist and family man. My mother, Eleanor, came from old money. Her family had been in pharmaceutical development for generations before she married my father and merged their companies. She was obsessed with appearances and the Harris legacy. Our house was featured in architectural magazines, and she hosted charity galas that were the talk of Chicago society. But behind closed doors, she was cold, calculating, and constantly critiquing everything about me. Then there was my perfect sister Sophia, 3 years older than me, with straight A grades, captain of the debate team, and later graduated from Harvard Business School with honors. She joined the family company without hesitation and quickly became the heir apparent. Our parents never missed her tennis matches or piano recitals. They proudly displayed her trophies and awards throughout our home. When she spoke at dinner, they listened attentively. My experience was dramatically different. Despite being a straight A student myself, my achievements were always met with indifference. That is what we expect from a Harris, my father would say without looking up from his newspaper. When I won the state science fair in 10th grade, my mother merely commented that my hair looked messy in the photos. They attended my events only when it would have looked suspicious to others if they had not from childhood. It was clear they had mapped out my future. I would study pharmaceutical sciences, join the family business, and eventually run the research division while Sophia handled the business side. My protests were ignored when I developed an interest in environmental science in high school, particularly how pharmaceutical waste affects ecosystems. My father dismissed it as tree hugger nonsense. During my junior year of high school, I applied to Northwestern specifically for their environmental science program. The confrontation that followed was explosive. My father threatened to cut me off financially. My mother cried about family duty and tradition. I stood my ground, arguing that I could still make a difference in the world without following their exact path. After weeks of silent treatment, they relented, but with conditions they would pay for my education. But I had to minor in biochemistry and work summer internships at their company. College brought partial freedom, but the tension escalated. Each year, every holiday break was filled with passive-aggressive comments about my fees and how I would eventually come to my senses. They increased pressure during my junior year, sending job descriptions for positions in their research department. When I secured an internship with an environmental nonprofit, instead they threatened to stop paying my tuition. I took out loans for my final year rather than give in. What they did not know until recently was that my maternal grandmother, Eleanor's mother, had left me a significant inheritance in a trust that would become accessible when I turned 23 or graduated college, whichever came last. Grandma Lillian had been the only family member who supported my independence. She had been a brilliant chemist herself, but had been forced to work in the shadow of her husband before she passed away. When I was 16, she made me promise to follow my own path. My parents discovered the inheritance 3 months before my graduation, when their attorney accidentally mentioned it during a family business meeting. Sophia later told me our father had turned white with rage. The trust was ironclad, set up with independent trustees, and would give me complete financial independence. Approximately $12 million that would have gone to my parents if I had never graduated or if I died before receiving it. The months leading up to graduation were strangely quiet. My parents stopped their usual barrage of texts and calls pressuring me about job interviews at their company. Instead, they suddenly took interest in my graduation plans. My mother called to say they wanted to throw me a proper celebration befitting a Harris. Their sudden change in behavior should have been my first warning sign. The morning of graduation dawned bright and clear, a perfect May day in Chicago. I stood in front of my apartment mirror, adjusting my cap, a mixture of pride and anxiety swirling in my stomach. After 4 years of hard work maintaining a 3.9 GPA while deliberately charting a course away from my family legacy, I had done it. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Car service will pick you up at 9:30. Do not be late." I met my parents outside the auditorium. My father was checking emails on his phone while my mother scrutinized my appearance. "Could you not have done something more with your hair?" she asked by way of greeting. "The photographer will be taking family portraits later. No congratulations, no pride, just criticism." Sophia stood slightly apart, giving me a small, supportive smile. Danielle, the voice of my best friend Taylor, cut through the tension. She rushed over her own graduation gown, fluttering with our other close friend Zoe right behind her. They had been my lifeline throughout college, the family I had chosen for myself. "We made it." Taylor hugged me tightly, whispering, "Your parents still look like they smell something bad whenever they see you." "Some things never change," I whispered back as my friends chatted excitedly about the ceremony and our plans to share an apartment while starting our careers. I noticed my parents step aside for what appeared to be an intense conversation. I could not hear most of it, but my father's words drifted over. "We need to solve this problem today before it gets out of hand." My mother nodded grimly, then caught me watching them. Her face immediately transformed into a practiced social smile. "Darling, we should find our seats. The ceremony will be starting soon." The graduation ceremony itself passed in a blur of speeches, name-calling, and the satisfying weight of the diploma in my hand. When Danielle Elizabeth Harris, summa cum laude, echoed through the auditorium, I heard Taylor and Zoe cheering wildly. My parents applauded politely, their expressions unreadable. After the ceremony, the car service whisked us to the Peninsula Chicago, where my parents had rented the entire rooftop terrace for my graduation celebration. I was stunned by the extravagance: ice sculptures, champagne fountains, gourmet catering stations, and even a small orchestra playing in the corner. Fresh flowers covered every surface, and a professional photographer circulated among the early arriving guests. Quite the production. "Your parents have put on," commented Dr. Lewis, approaching me with a glass of water in hand. He had been my father's research partner decades ago before splitting off to teach at Northwestern. He had become something of a mentor to me, one of the few connections to my family world that I actually valued. "Congratulations on your impressive achievement, Danielle." "Thank you. It is a bit much, is not it? Not really their style, at least not for me." I scanned the growing crowd. Actually, I am surprised by the guest list. Half these people I barely know. Dr. Lewis followed my gaze to where my father was speaking with 2 men in expensive suits. "Business associates," he explained. "And over there with your mother, that is Gerald Thorne, your family's attorney." He lowered his voice. "Things have been tense at the company lately. Rumors of irregularities in some clinical trials. Your father has been in closed-door meetings for weeks." My stomach tightened. "What kind of irregularities?" He shook his head. "Nothing concrete, but be careful, Danielle. Your parents seem..." He paused, choosing his words carefully, particularly invested in keeping the Harris legacy intact right now as the party reached full swing. I noticed something odd. My parents were watching me constantly, not with pride or even their usual disappointment, but with a calculating intensity that made my skin crawl. Whenever I moved to a new conversation group, one of them would casually reposition themselves to keep me in their line of sight. Sophia sidled up beside me as I grabbed an order of... "Something weird is going on," she murmured. "Dad asked me 3 times if you had mentioned your plans after graduation. And Mom keeps checking her watch like she is waiting for something." Before I could respond, my father clinked his glass, signaling for attention. "In 15 minutes, we will have a special champagne toast to the graduate," he announced, his businessman's smile firmly in place. "Everyone make sure you have a glass for the occasion." I watched as waiters began preparing flutes on silver trays. My father beckoned to the head waiter, pointing out a specific bottle of champagne with a gold label. "That one," I heard him say. "For the family. Only with 15 minutes until the toast." I excused myself to use the restroom. The main facilities had a line, so I slipped down a service corridor to use the employee restroom I had noticed earlier. As I approached, I heard angry whispers coming from around the corner. "Are you absolutely certain this is necessary?" My mother's voice tense and slightly higher than normal. "Do you want to lose everything we have built?" My father hissed back. "The FDA investigation is gaining momentum. If they find those test results, we are finished. The trust gives her enough money to be completely independent. What if she decides to play environmental crusader and exposes the river contamination from the West facility? She has always been self-righteous enough to do it. But drugging her at her own graduation party? Joseph, we could just talk to her again. Talk like that has ever worked with her. She is stubborn and naive. It is just enough to make her sick, not to kill her. She will be hospitalized for a few days with what looks like food poisoning. That gives us time to handle the paperwork and move some assets before the trust disbursement. The lawyers confirmed if she dies before the official transfer next week, it reverts to us as her next of kin." "Keep your voice down," my mother whispered harshly. "Someone could hear us." My blood turned to ice as I pressed myself against the wall, barely breathing. They were planning to poison me. My own parents. The realization was so monstrous my mind initially rejected it, but the biochemist in me processed my father's words clinically just enough to make her sick. A non-lethal dose of something that would present as food poisoning, but serious enough for hospitalization. I slipped back down the corridor before they could discover me. My hands shaking so badly I could barely check my makeup in the main bathroom mirror. I needed to appear normal to think clearly. Years of navigating my parents' emotional manipulation had taught me to compartmentalize, but this was beyond anything I could have imagined. Back at the party, I observed with new eyes as waiters arranged champagne flutes on a special tray. My father approached, examining the glasses carefully before selecting one and placing it slightly apart from the others. The special bottle with the gold label was opened and the bartender began filling glasses. My father hovered nearby, ensuring that he knew exactly which glass was which. I made my way to Taylor and Zoe, keeping my voice steady through sheer will. "I need you to do something for me." "No questions asked," I whispered. Taylor immediately nodded. "Always loyal, without hesitation. Record the toast on your phone. Get my father in the frame as much as possible, especially when he hands out the champagne." "Is everything okay?" Zoe asked, her eyes concerned. "Just a precaution," I replied, forcing a smile. "Family drama, as usual." The minutes ticked by with excruciating slowness. My biochemistry training kicked in as I considered what my father might use. It would need to be something difficult to detect something that could plausibly occur naturally or appear to be food poisoning. Perhaps the compound from their own research facilities, something not yet on standard toxicology screens. I would need to recognize the symptoms quickly if his plan succeeded. Nausea and vomiting would be likely first signs, followed by perhaps abdominal pain, dizziness, or respiratory issues depending on the toxin. If I could identify it quickly enough, I could tell medical personnel exactly what to test for, as my father called everyone together for the toast. I realized with crystal clarity that I needed evidence. If I simply refused the champagne, they would try again another way. I needed proof of their attempt, something concrete that could not be explained away. The moment of the toast approached with a surreal quality. Waiters distributed champagne to the general guests, while my father personally handled the glasses from the special bottle. "The family should have the finest champagne for this special occasion," he announced jovially to nearby guests. He handed glasses to my mother, then Sophia, then extended one specifically to me, his eyes meeting mine with a smile that never reached them. I watched in slow motion as he presented the glass to me, and with absolute certainty, I saw it. The slightly cloudy quality at the bottom where a powder had not fully dissolved. My father's large signet ring glinted as he held the stem, practically forcing the glass into my hand. To Danielle, he said loudly, raising his own glass, "May your future be everything you deserve." The double meaning was not lost on me as I accepted the poisoned champagne, careful not to let it touch my lips as the guests took their first sip. "Before we drink," my mother interjected smoothly, "Joseph, why do not you say a few words about our daughter on this special day?" My father cleared his throat, shifting into his public speaking persona. Danielle has always been determined. He began carefully selecting words that sounded complimentary to outsiders, but carried years of disapproval that only I could hear. While she has chosen an unconventional path. Today we celebrate her academic achievement. As he continued his passive-aggressive speech, my mind raced. Taylor was recording as promised, her phone discreetly capturing everything. I needed to act now before the toast concluded. The champagne in my hand might as well have been a live grenade. Enter Sophia. My father added, surprising everyone by deviating from the traditional toast to the graduate who has shown what a true heiress can accomplish in the business world. The perfect example of family loyalty. Sophia smiled uncomfortably, clearly caught off guard by being included in what should have been my moment, and in that instant I made my decision. Speaking of my amazing sister, I said, stepping forward with a bright smile, I would not be here without her support. I turned to Sophia, raising my glass. She deserves a proper toast too. In fact, I held out my champagne flute toward her. This special reserved champagne father selected is too good not to share. Take mine. Sis, I insist. Before anyone could react, I had pressed my untouched glass into Sophia's hand and smoothly taken her already partially drunk glass. My father's face froze in a mask of horror he could not publicly display, while my mother's knuckles went white around her own glass. To family, I declared, raising Sophia's safe champagne while looking directly into my father's eyes. Confusion flickered across Sophia's face, but social training took over. She smiled and raised my champagne glass to family. She echoed and drank deeply from the poisoned glass. I sipped from her original glass, never breaking eye contact with my father. His face had gone ashen, a thin sheen of sweat appearing on his forehead as he realized what had happened. My mother glanced rapidly between Sophia and him, her practiced smile becoming brittle at the edges. The moment passed. Guests applauded, conversations resumed, and the orchestra began playing again. I circulated through the crowd, making small talk while keeping Sophia in my peripheral vision. Guilt and fear battled within me. I had not had time to think of another solution, but I had just allowed my sister to drink poison meant for me. The dose was supposed to be non-lethal, according to what I had overheard. But what if my father had lied to my mother? What if Sophia reacted badly to whatever it contained? 34 minutes after the toast had happened, I was speaking with one of my professors when I heard a gasp from across the room. Sophia had been speaking with one of the firm's junior associates when she suddenly pressed her hand to her forehead, swaying slightly. I feel strange. I heard her say, her voice slurring uncharacteristically. Really dizzy. Suddenly, I pushed through the crowd just as Sophia's knees buckled. The associate caught her awkwardly as she slumped forward. "Help," he called. "Something is wrong." My parents rushed over, genuine panic in their eyes, now that their golden child was affected instead of their disappointment. My father reached her first, cradling her head as she began to mumble incoherently. Her skin had taken on a grayish tinge and sweat beaded on her forehead. "Call an ambulance!" My mother shrieked, all composure abandoned. Dr. Lewis appeared at my side, his medical training kicking in as he checked Sophia's pulse. "Her heart rate is elevated and irregular," he reported, loosening her collar. "What was she doing before this happened?" She just had champagne at the toast, the associate answered. She seemed fine. Then suddenly my father's eyes snapped to mine, realization and fury mixing with fear. I stared back unflinchingly. The ambulance is on its way, someone announced. 5 minutes out. I knelt beside Sophia, taking her hand. Stay with her, I told my parents firmly. I will go downstairs to direct the paramedics. They nodded distractedly. All attention on Sophia, who had begun to tremble slightly in the privacy of the elevator. I pulled out my phone and called Taylor. Meet me in the lobby right now, I instructed. I bring your phone with the recording. It is an emergency. Taylor and Zoe were waiting when the elevator doors opened. Sophia collapsed, I explained rapidly, walking toward the entrance. I need you to give a copy of that toast recording to the paramedics and tell them I suspect poisoning. Then send me a backup. Poisoning, Zoe repeated, horrified. What the hell is going on, Danielle? I will explain everything later. Please just trust me. The ambulance sirens were audible now, growing closer. When the paramedics arrived, I approached the first one. My sister has collapsed upstairs. Symptoms include dizziness, disorientation, irregular heartbeat, and tremors. I have reason to believe she ingested a toxic substance in her champagne. The paramedic looked at me sharply. You suspect poisoning? Based on what I am, a biochemistry graduate. The symptoms presented suddenly about 30 minutes after consumption. And I also, before I could finish, my parents burst from the elevator with Dr. Lewis supporting a semi-conscious Sophia between them. The paramedics rushed forward with a gurney, their training taking over as they quickly assessed her condition. Please, help her. My mother sobbed, her mascara running. She just collapsed, BP 90/60, and dropping one paramedic reported pulse 120 and irregular. As they loaded her into the ambulance, my father turned to me, his voice low and dangerous. What did you do? Nothing, I replied calmly. She drank from my glass. Remember the special champagne you selected just for me? His face contorted with rage and fear. You switched the glasses deliberately. You knew what father, that you put something in my drink. Why would I think that I held his gaze steadily? Unless you did. She needs family with her. A paramedic interrupted. One person can ride along. I will go. My mother insisted, already climbing in. We will follow in the car, my father said, grabbing my arm painfully. All of us. The ride to Northwestern Memorial Hospital was tense. Silence. My father drove while I sat in the back seat, Taylor and Zoe having promised to meet me there. My phone buzzed with a text from Taylor. Video sent to your email showing you clearly switching glasses after your father handed you one. What do I tell the police when they arrive? Police? Of course there would be police if poisoning was suspected. I texted back quickly. Tell them everything you saw. Show them the video in the emergency room. Chaos reigned. Sophia had been rushed into a treatment area with my mother wailing dramatically to anyone who would listen about her precious daughter and how she just collapsed for no reason. I approached the nurse's station directly. I need to speak with my sister's doctor immediately. I have reason to believe she ingested a toxin, and I may know what it is. The nurse looked skeptical until I added, I am a biochemistry graduate specializing in pharmaceutical compounds. Please, time might be critical. Minutes later, I was speaking with Dr. Patel, the emergency physician treating Sophia. Your sister is experiencing symptoms consistent with anticholinergic poisoning, she explained. Elevated heart rate, confusion, dilated pupils, dry mouth. We are treating her symptoms while running toxicology screens. You need to specifically test for cyclopenlite derivatives, I said. My father works with modified versions at Harris Pharmaceuticals. They are testing a new class of compounds that would not show up on standard tox screens. Dr. Patel's eyebrows rose. That is a very specific suggestion. Why do you suspect this particular compound? I took a deep breath because I believe my father intentionally added it to my champagne glass. But my sister drank from it instead. Her professional demeanor did not change, but she reached for the phone. I need to contact the police within an hour. The emergency room had transformed into a crime scene. 2 detectives interviewed staff while a uniformed officer stood outside Sophia's treatment room. My parents had been separated for questioning. My mother loudly protesting the absurd accusations while my father demanded his attorney. I sat in a small consultation room with Detective Rivera, a serious woman with kind eyes that belied her no-nonsense demeanor. "Walk me through what happened again." She requested taking detailed notes. I recounted everything from the overheard conversation to seeing my father placed powder in my champagne, to the split-second decision to switch glasses with Sophia. I have biochemistry training. I recognized the symptoms when they started. I never thought he would use something potentially lethal, but I could not be sure. "And why would your parents want to poison you?" she asked carefully. "Money," I replied simply. "Control. My grandmother left me a trust worth approximately $12 million. That activates next week. If I died before then, it would revert to my parents. They also recently discovered their pharmaceutical company is under FDA investigation, and they believe I might have information that could harm them." Detective Rivera's expression did not change, but she wrote something and underlined it. "That is a serious accusation." "I know," I said quietly. "I have the video my friend took of the toast. You can clearly see my father giving me a specific glass and my decision to switch with Sophia. You can also interview Dr. Lewis, who is aware of tensions within the family and the company." A knock at the door interrupted us. Dr. Patel entered with a tablet in hand. "We have preliminary toxicology results," she announced. "We found elevated levels of a modified anticholinergic compound similar to, but not identical to cyclopentathlete. It appears to be a research compound not yet in commercial production." Detective Rivera looked between us in English, please. "It is a laboratory-created drug that would cause symptoms mimicking severe food poisoning, but with additional cardiovascular effects," I explained. "Exactly the kind of compound Harris Pharmaceuticals has been developing. Only someone with access to their research facilities would have it." "Will she be all right?" I asked Dr. Patel anxiously. "We are administering Pfizer's stigma as an antidote," she replied. "Her condition is serious but stable. If we had not identified the compound quickly, there could have been permanent heart damage." I closed my eyes briefly, relief washing over me. "Thank you." When I opened them, I found Detective Rivera studying me carefully. "You realize that by your own admission, you knowingly allowed your sister to drink what you suspected was poisoned champagne." My stomach dropped. I did not know what else to do in that moment. I needed evidence. I thought it was just enough to make someone sick, not life-threatening. My voice shook slightly. "I made a terrible decision, and I will have to live with that." Before she could respond, the door burst open and my father stormed in, followed by a flustered officer and a sharp-looking man in an expensive suit. "This is outrageous," my father shouted. "My daughter is clearly mentally unstable and jealous of her sister's success. She has been making wild accusations about our family for years." "Mr. Harris, I must ask you to step outside," Detective Rivera said, firmly standing. "Joseph Harris, do not say another word," the suited man instructed, placing a hand on my father's arm. "I am Gerald Thorne, the Harris family attorney. My client has no comment at this time. Your client is not under arrest yet." Detective Rivera emphasized the last word, but I suggest he cooperate fully. "We have video evidence of the champagne toast and preliminary toxicology reports confirming a research-grade pharmaceutical compound in Sophia Harris's system." My father's face went through a rapid series of emotions before settling into cold fury. "Danielle has always been troubled," he said, his voice suddenly calm and reasonable. "She was jealous of her sister, resentful of our expectations. She has threatened before to destroy our family business out of spite." "That is not true," I protested. "We indulged her environmental science whims despite her responsibilities to the family company," he continued as if I had not spoken. "We even threw this expensive graduation party to show our support. And how does she repay us? By creating this elaborate drama and allowing her own sister to become ill." Gerald Thorne placed a business card on the table. Detective, we will cooperate fully with your investigation, but any further questions should come through me. The Harris family is prominent in this community, and we expect discretion. After they left, Detective Rivera picked up the card with 2 fingers as if it might be contaminated. Interesting family. You have Miss Harris. You have no idea, I replied wearily. A commotion in the hallway drew our attention. Dr. Lewis had arrived and was arguing with the officer outside Sophia's room. I am her family physician, he insisted. I need to review her treatment. Detective Rivera and I stepped out as Dr. Lewis spotted me. Danielle, thank God. What happened? They are saying Joseph tried to poison you. Before I could answer, Dr. Patel emerged from Sophia's room. She is asking for you. Danielle. She is still groggy, but lucid. Entering the dimly lit hospital room, I felt a wave of guilt. Seeing Sophia connected to monitors and IV in her arm, her normally perfect appearance was disheveled, her skin still holding an unhealthy pallor. Her eyes fluttered open as I approached. Hey, I said softly, taking her hand. How are you feeling? Like I got hit by a truck, she replied, her voice raspy. They told me. Is it true? Did Dad really try to poison you? I nodded slowly, tears filling my eyes. I am so sorry you drank it instead. I just reacted. I did not think why she whispered confusion and pain clouding her eyes. Why would he do that? The trust from Grandma Lillian, the FDA investigation. They were afraid I would expose contamination at the West facility. Understanding dawned in Sophia's eyes. The sealed reports, the ones they have been keeping in the secure server. She squeezed my hand weakly. In Kuwait. Last month, I saw the warning signs, heavy metal spikes, and disposal logs, but didn't grasp them. Harris Pharmaceuticals had been dumping research waste into the watershed for years. A soft knock, Detective Rivera entered with another officer. The FBI, she said, had spent 6 months investigating Harris for fraud, environmental crimes, and falsified clinical trial data. My parents were already under surveillance when the poisoning happened. Agents had just served warrants at our offices and home. Sophia's monitor spiked. Oh my God, I signed some of those forms. The officer told her to focus on healing for now. 2 days later, the Chicago Tribune headline hit Pharma CEO and wife arrested for attempted murder of daughter with subheads on massive fraud and environmental offenses. I hid at Taylor and Zoe's place. Sophia was discharged to our Aunt Patricia, who flew in from Seattle. The FBI found a trove emails faking safety data for 3 drugs. Environmental tests showing years of illegal dumping near the West facility. Rivera confirmed the poison was an experimental anticholinergic from my father's private lab personally signed out 3 days before graduation, plus dosage notes in his home office. Agent Donovan then showed me photos of a storage unit rented under my name with a forged signature boxes of files, laptops, and vials. My father had contingency plans to frame me for espionage if the poisoning failed. Financial records showed offshore siphoning. Ex-employees described being fired for raising safety concerns. 3 families sued over concealed side effects. Our parents were held without bail. At the hearing, prosecutors played the toast video, matched the toxin to Dad's lab, and showed the motive my trust would revert to them if I died, plus a jail call where he ordered river samples cleaned and called me the problem child. The judge sent it to trial. Outside, Sophia told reporters we were cooperating and asked for privacy right before someone shouted, "Were you part of the plan?"